Tommy, good morning. Good to see you.
Morning, Paul. Good to see you too. Although no one else will see us, will they? As we've just said.
No, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, we've just had a chat that says this is audio only, but nonetheless, it is good to see you.
Oh, you too, mate. Yeah, I think it was a handful of NAMs ago, wasn't it? I bumped into you in one of the many loud halls, which is all of them, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy, really. I mean, we're in the UK. Are you based?
So I'm in a place called Spalding in Lincolnshire, so I'm probably 100 miles above London or thereabouts.
Yeah, and so I'm in Nottingham,
Hmm.
and yet I would generally bump into you in California.
Yeah, I know. It's probably most of the people that I talk to on a daily basis I never see until I get to California, and they probably only live in Stamford or Peterborough or something, which is silly, isn't it? And but yeah, it's often the way how it goes, isn't it? With that.
It is, it is. But those meetings were nice, and it was nice to see you there because you and I first met when you got a different hat on. You were I don't know if you recall, but you were examining our small centre in Nottingham. That was the first time I met you.
I do recall, mate. Yeah, it was always nice to go to an exam centre where you look at the schedule and you think, "There's drums. I hope there's a drum. Oh, there's several drum kits. This will be all right then," because that wasn't always the way, was it? So yeah, it was a real
No,
treat turning up to your place, mate. It was like a well-oiled machine.
well, thank you very much. I mean, I likewise, I can recall how calm and welcoming that you were with students. And then a couple of years, I don't know what the time frame was because these NAM shows they roll into one for me, because the the exhibition halls are the same and there's no daylight in there and the branding's the same. Like I
Yeah.
don't know which year it was or which years it were, they were, but it was nice to see you, and you were on G7's Capos, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I started with them back in mid 19. So the first NAM I ever did was January 19, where I met G7th, funnily enough. And then, even though they're based 20 minutes down the road from me, met him in California. And then I
Yeah.
started with them in 2000. So apart from the ones that COVID uh, ruined, if you like, I can't remember if that was
Yeah.
one or two now. But yeah, I've done all the other NAMs since then. So yeah, that was where I'd have been hanging out.
And what is it? So let's just talk about your career because
Hmm.
what I'm what I'm learning from the chats that I'm having with people is that it's people have a varied sort of winding journey on their way in their careers, and it might be out of necessity, but it also might be because we're just creative people and we like to do many things. We like to try things.
Oh yeah.
So you are a voiceover artist and voice actor, exceptional guitarist. You have assessed people in your career for various awarding bodies, and now you work for a manufacturer in the music manufacturing industry. Is that a fair appraisal of your portfolio career, if you like?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's nice to hear someone kind of run it down actually, because I was at Guitar Summit in Germany last week, and one of our artists, Sophie Chassis, great player and great singer, she said, "Oh, I was on Spotify the other day and I came across a podcast you did a few years ago, and I think it would have been the first NAM, and it was all about me running a group on Facebook that I still kind of run and playing the harp guitar." And she said, "Oh, I hadn't realised there's a bit more crossover between us than I thought." So we got chatting about that. And when someone else is saying, "Oh, I read this about you and I did the same," you suddenly remember, "Oh yeah, I did do that. I haven't done it for a few years, but." It's nice to revisit that mentally, I think, because you can only really fully concentrate on what's in front of you, can't you? Not 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because for me on my own personal journey, I realised that I didn't really reflect at all,
Mm.
and I'd got you know I've been doing this for over 30 years professionally, and I'd kind of forgotten about those 30 years because there is always a need of what's next, isn't there? You've got not only have you got bills to pay, but as a creative, it's like, right, I've done that. What's next?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I completely get that, mate. I mean, I've not been doing it quite as long as you. You know, I'm 39 in a few months, and I look back on a lot of it now. And I mean, I started teaching guitar kind of informally. You know, like when we started our first band, the bass player didn't play anything, so I started teaching him how to play the bass parts to stuff. So that would have been, I guess, when I was 14. So that's 25 years now. And I almost, the longer I do it for, the less I think about it. Because I think when people say,
Yeah.
oh, how long have you been playing? It is 25 years. I know it is on paper, but I don't know. It almost feels like another lifetime ago that I started doing it. And so I don't know. The years kind of run away, don't they? And you look forward to the next thing. And then, especially if there's an element of self employment to what you do, I think, you know, you have to think where the next things are coming from and what that might lead to. And I don't know if you're the same as me, but saying no to anything, there's always that little bit of fear thinking, oh, but what if this turns into something really good? Then maybe I can stop doing another thing that I don't enjoy quite as much, but I won't know unless I do it and burn myself out a little bit anyway. But none of us know what we're doing, so it's all right to not really know.
Yeah, and it is all right to say no, isn't it? You know,
Mm.
there is the fear of the unknown, you know, opportunity and sort of building your networks as a creative. But it is okay to say no or not yet or not now. You know, it doesn't need to be handbags at dawn and you know, no, nobody need a fallout. But you know, we're quite a sensitive bunch as well, aren't we, as creatives? You know.
Oh, absolutely, mate. And I think you're absolutely right. That's you know, practicing saying no. And this might seem like it's linked to nothing, but if you don't mind, I'll just mention a thing, because
Mm.
it's something that I've heard people talk about for ages, and it's something that I've been thinking about quite a lot in more recent years. You know, actively doing nothing, actively relaxing, or actively saying no. Something I've started doing, and I don't know if I've told you about this, but about a month ago, the gym down the street from me does hot cold recovery, so sauna and cold plunge.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I've read about it loads, and you know, I kickbox as well, and quite a lot of the guys I know do that. And I used to scuba dive years and years back, so I thought, oh, cold water, I can deal with that. But of course, it's not touching your skin. And when I started doing the hot cold thing, I messed it up the first time. Then I got the hang of it, and it's really made me appreciate the value of not just stopping, but speeding up that doing nothing process. Almost, that's horribly put. Um, but I think just sitting there, it's difficult to think of anything or be particularly stressed when all you're doing is concentrating on breathing for 2 minutes. And when I got home from doing that first one, and every time I feel like I could go and run a marathon. You know, the clarity that I've got, and it feels like it's speeding up that process of actively not doing anything. It's really been really fascinating. And I wish I'd been doing it for years. And the amount of people that I've bored with it, like I'm boring you now, I would hope. And they said, "Oh, I've kind of have the same problem. You know, it's just when you're a creative person, your brain never really stops, does it? It maybe slows down for a bit, but then you kind of, you know, you're sitting there watching something. Oh, no, I wonder how long that light fitting's been up there. Maybe I could just, maybe I could change the red of that. Oh, TV, yeah, Dad's Army. Which episode was this again? You know, it gets a little bit like that, doesn't it? So that's something
Yeah.
that I'm very new to. It's only been a month, but I wish I'd been doing it for ages. And if one person hears this and think, oh, you know, kind of been thinking about that, go and give it a go, but don't lower yourself in slowly with the water. Just white knuckle it, and it will be all right in about 15 seconds. Because I'm no scientist, but my logic is if you dip your toes in and you spend 5 minutes getting up to your knees, your body's spent 5 minutes thinking we're freezing, and it's speeding up everything in your body to warm yourself up, but you're not getting any benefit because hardly any of you's in. So the second time I did it, I thought, right, no messing about, straight up to the beard, in, and it was all right after 30 seconds. You know, go a bit Wim Hof with it and just breathe deeply and then
Yeah.
hold it for a bit. So that the reason I mentioned that, you know, saying no and actively doing less, that's been something that's it feels to me mentally and physically like it's helped speed up that process of recovering. So I never feel like I've put enough effort into that, and you can only eat so much and sleep so much, can't you? So finding another thing that's contributed to that has been a real benefit to me.
And do you find that not only are you more relaxed and like you say everything slows down, the thinking slows down, but do you find that therefore you're more productive when you're at work?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me, because I have so many different things that I do, I've recently split my guitar socials up from my voiceover socials because I'm I know myself quite well, and that doesn't mean I necessarily like the way that I do everything. But something I've
Hmm.
realised is I'll find a new thing and I'll do it, obsessively to death for a little while. Then I'll think, right, I'm doing a bit too much of this, and I'll stop temporarily, and then I'll find a better balance. And I suppose it's the whole CBT approach of, you know, finding the grey in the middle rather than the black or the white. Um, that's been really useful to me as well. And I think, in terms of just knowing that I structure my week, Monday, Friday, I go and lift weights. Wednesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Sunday, I'll go and do a plunge. I never thought I would look forward to voluntarily going and sitting in cold water. But because I know that I've
Yeah.
got that in a few days, I'm thinking I'm going tomorrow morning and I'm really excited because I just think, well, I'll go and do that and then I'm going to go and do this thing afterwards. But the thing afterwards, it doesn't matter right now. I'm going to go and do that. It's going to slow everything down and it's just for me. And having relaxed myself and slowed everything down and known, consciously that I'm recovering better, I think it just makes me that bit more aware. Well, I am more recovered now, so I can work more productively with what I'm actually doing, and sort of delegate certain things. So yeah, I think it's definitely made a big difference. I'm excited to see how it will be, another 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line. I'm only a month in at the minute,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely feel like I'm more productive and just enjoying things more. I think.
Well, I mean that's great to hear. Because um, if you take the fact that like I would see you at NAM shows, that's an annual event. So there's a cycle in that. There's like a treadmill cycle,
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
So and and there's obviously you and I are beyond like ritualistic sort of communication in the sense of hi, how are you, good to see you. We're
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
beyond that, but if you get into that pattern, you can lose years, and you can be
hundred
just
percent,
drifting around, you know.
totally. Yeah,
So yeah, I find the chats, and I find this chat fascinating because it we we have dedicated ourselves to our musical pursuits one way or another, and then branching out into more creative pursuits.
mm,
But it it's the life around it that helps you sustain it, isn't it? And I don't just mean financially. I just mean like taking care of yourself mentally, physically, holistically, having time out.
definitely.
Because I think what you said a moment ago about creatives never really stopping thinking. You just might dial it down a bit. But
Yeah,
I caught myself losing hours thinking. Sometimes it was positive. Sometimes I would be solving problems at work or just imagineering, trying to create stuff. Um, but it wasn't a particularly healthy balance because I was imagining it more than I was doing it.
that's
And I
yeah.
found, do you know what I mean? Like I would think to myself, yeah, I'm gonna play the drums today, and I'm gonna record, and I want to just, you know, play for me rather than teach someone or record or whatever. I'm just gonna play the drums, and then I would find at the end of the day that I'd not gone near the drums at all, but mentally I'd convinced myself that I was gonna do it. It's like this psychological contract was all off.
Oh yeah, it kind of.
And
Yeah, sorry, carry on. I didn't mean to jump in there.
no, no,
Yeah,
no, I think I was just kind of musing on that. Then you're just sort of drifting away a bit, really.
can I just check? Did you just use the word imagineering?
I did.
That's beautiful. I'm gonna write that down because I've not heard that. Oh, that's
So
that's not a pen.
just
That's a capo. Let me just find a pen.
yeah,
Sorry.
well,
I love that.
yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I've not heard that before. I like it.
Well, that is not mine. That is a phrase that the Disney corporation use.
Ah, okay.
They firmly believe in the power of imagination, and then completely off topic or related somehow, but the late Duke of Edinburgh would often say that before you can build it, you've got to imagine it, you've got to invent it in your
Mm,
mind, you've got to be a creative before you can be an engineer.
I like it. Yeah, that's brilliant.
So I think there is a lot of I think there's a lot of validity and a lot of positivity in thinking things through. But I do like the meditative side of what you're doing, where actually all you're focusing on is breathing and relaxing.
Oh, totally. And that might seem a little bit pedantic with that there, but every now and then I just find things kind of pop into my head. I know the other day a memory popped up on Facebook, and I was in Wales some years ago doing a teaching retreat out there, and I found myself on this riverboat doing a little gig with this chap, and the chap, his name's Mark, lovely bloke, and he was talking about how he gets, I can't remember the specific name of the illness or the syndrome, but he said he gets a lot of pins and needles in his hands, so he can't play, and he said it feels a bit like I'm hugging a hedgehog, and that's always stuck with me. I just think that's a song title, isn't it? That's the sort of
Yeah,
Tommy Emmanuel, hugging a hedgehog, and
yeah,
kind of the same thing with that. I think every now and then, and you say about inventing and imagining things. I'm very fortunate that I work with Nick Campling, who invented the G7 Capo. Nick's an inventor, and he's done. I won't go through his whole CV because I don't know it, and I wouldn't want to get it wrong. But in terms of whenever he comes up with something new, um, it's really interesting for me because I don't know if you're the same, Paul, but the older I get, the more okay I am with certain things. Like, I'm not tremendously practical with a lot of things. I'm just not. Directions, can't do it. I have no sense of direction at all. But luckily, the sat nav exists, so I don't really need to. It's just one of those things. I was
yeah,
driving home with the missus last night from the cinema, and we had to go a bit of a diversion. And I've done the road 1,000 times, but it was dark and it was a different way, and I didn't have the sat nav on, and it has become a bit of a crutch, definitely. And I just said, "It is this way, isn't it?" And eventually, she said, "Do you really not know this yet?" And she wasn't being horrible, and I just said, "Well, I think I do, but at the same time, it's late at night. I don't want to go the wrong way, and I just know that if I put this thing on, it will get me there." And so it's always a bit of a, when you go somewhere, which road did you come in? I'll stop you there. There's no point carrying this on because I don't know. Or did you come? Yeah, I
mm.
must have done. Are you sure? No. I did you go past the school? Don't know. I didn't look. Maybe. Yeah. Does it matter? So it probably sounds a bit dismissive, but I think the older I get, the more I realise that isn't a strength of mine. Probably never will be, and that's all right. I'll do the things that I can do. It's kind of like not any song ever, but I can listen to most anything you'll hear on the radio and think, oh, that's that chord progression, whatever. Not everyone can do that, and I've trained myself to do it and been trained to do it, same as you. So it doesn't seem that hard to us, I wouldn't have thought. But I'm sure you can listen to most any drum beat and picture what's going on, whereas someone who doesn't play, they
Yeah.
can't do that. So I've got that thing, and I haven't got the other thing. I'm all right with that. I'll take the bad cards with the good, as Jerry Seinfeld poetically once said, whatever it was. I can't remember now. But but yeah, I think you just become a bit more okay with it, don't you?
Yeah, I think so, and I think so. I mean, there's a couple of things in that really. I mean,
Mm.
I'm a strong advocate of technology and AI assisting the human endeavor, not replacing it.
Yeah.
So we don't need to be masters of all things, and actually, there isn't the time.
No.
As a younger man, I bought into the idea. I was kind of sold it actually, but so therefore I bought into it that I had to be the best player I could, and unless I was touring, recording, and on the cover of a drumming magazine, that then unless I had achieved all of that, I hadn't made it,
There you go.
and therefore that was soul destroying because I didn't get on the cover of the drumming magazine, but I was gigging a bit and I was recording a bit, but I couldn't. The ego got in the way.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I hear you.
And I'm happy enough to. It's not an admission. It's probably part of being a young man as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And I'm far more relaxed now, and I'm far more relaxed with the idea that I'm likely to be creative for much longer in my life if actually I pursue other things as well.
Definitely.
Whereas again, as a younger man, I'd convinced myself that unless I was earning my living sort of in and around the drum set, then I was a failure. But actually now I think to myself, well, wouldn't it be nice to try a myriad of other things because we've only got one shot at this.
Totally.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I'm going to give up playing. I might actually end up playing for longer because I might just enjoy it.
That's it.
And I'm kind of going around this circular journey where it's like I'm playing for fun at the moment. I don't teach very many people. I haven't been to the NAMM show. I went once after the pandemic and realised that actually it was me that was changing. You know, the industry is what it is. The drums are what they are. You know, guitars are what they are. And then if you need to consume those products, you know, you want new versions of or whatever, great, fine.
Yeah.
But actually, I would just float around the show and feel inspired. You know, I wasn't working there like you.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, I know what you mean.
so you know, so I haven't been for it, and I just took a bit of time out to kind of recenter. And what I found is by doing other things in my life, my creative output is greater.
That's great to hear, mate. I love that you're saying you're playing for fun, and it made me think of something. I'm sure you're the same. I'm perpetually moving stuff around in my essay studio. It's a third bedroom that I've converted into a little space with lots of guitars on the wall that you can see, but not anyone else can. But and I've got this deck of cards that I got from a Penn and Teller gig years ago, and
Oh
it's a
yeah,
rigged deck, you know.
yeah,
And I was watching on YouTube. I think it's the Big Think interview series, and there's a really nice one of Penn Jillette because he lost all that weight, didn't he? He lost 100 pounds or something, and it just loosened something in my brain there. At the end of an interview, he's talking about wanting to be around longer to be with his children. And he just said, "I still eat what I want, but what I want has changed profoundly." And that really resonated with when I heard him say that. And I probably come back to that once a month, that interview, because I think I look at what I'm doing now and compare it to, I used to work in retail, 2007 to 2009. And at that point, when I think I was 18 when I bought my first steel string acoustic. I was working at Summerfield.
yeah,
You'll remember Summerfield. I don't know how many other people will, but I worked in the
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
the bakery, and I say bakery, putting frozen stuff in an oven. It's kind of baking, isn't it? And I can remember buying my first acoustic there, but only strummy, and then when YouTube became a thing in sort of '05, '06, and finding Andy McKee, I want to do that, and then
yeah,
saw him play harp guitar, which is why I got a harp guitar, and for a good handful of years there, all I cared about was fingerstyle, and still did the metal stuff as well. But I'm definitely at that point now where I'm very fortunate in that a lot of these guitar gurus in that world, not all of them, but I've come to be friends with a lot of them. I mean, and it's really lovely getting to sort of dip into their world just briefly here and there, and it makes me very grateful that I'm not doing it to that extent, to be honest. And that's not any shade on them. It's amazing that they do, but I just think being away for a week in Germany, they're away 40 odd weeks a year, and I just think, oh, I like being at home too much now. I like going away here and
yeah,
there. You know what it's like. You go and do 6 weeks doing drum exams in China. There's nothing relaxing about that, and that's not because it's China or because it's drums. It's because it's everything, isn't it? And I think some of my most treasured memories are of those trips. They changed my life in profound ways. But there are certain moments as well. And did you ever do one of the China tours? I can't remember.
I didn't do China. Longest I was out was in India.
Oh, you did India. Oh, what? How did you get
Yeah.
on? What do you
So,
reckon?
well, I mean, I loved it. I mean, I made a great friend out there.
Oh, cool.
I was there for just under a month,
Mm.
and it was at the end of 2019, and in week two. So I went. I think I transited. It was Dubai and then New Delhi before going south.
Oh, okay.
And two weeks in, I started to feel really ill, and I didn't know why. And actually, on reflection, I'd got every symptom of COVID,
Oh,
and this was right at the end of 2019.
oh, there you go. Yeah.
So I ended up in hospital in India,
Oh, blimey. Oh,
and
mate.
yeah, and they were yeah no there's a story, and then and, sorry let me just yeah so I ended up in hospital and they said, well, look, we know you're ill, but we don't know what's wrong. Just go home and you'll be all right. So 2 weeks later, I'm home. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm at the NAMM show in 2020, and I'm in the bar in the Hilton, and I passed out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just totally passed out. And then of course, a month after that, everyone's talking about COVID-19, and then we're locked down. So I'm not necessarily patient zero, but yeah, I that so anyway, that's a digression. But the longest tour I was at was in India.
Well, that sounds brutal, mate. And I know when I did India, I can remember being in Mumbai next to a hospital. And this is not to be horrible to India's healthcare system, but I remember going in there and thinking, blimey, I imagine these people are going to get a whole lot poorlier being in here than not being in here,
Mm.
you know. And they were doing the best they could with what they had, weren't they? It made me very, very grateful going to India, I think. And I think one of the funniest things for me going to India and China, when we were in Germany last week, we were with this chap called Abby, who's from India. I think he's from Dimapur in the east. And I said to him, "Oh, I went to Dimapur," and he kind of gave me this look as if to say, "I don't think I've ever met an English bloke who's been there. Why on earth did you need to go there?" I'm like, well, it's a fair question, you know. So it's like that bit in Dad's Army, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I've got a diving suit. Why have you got a diving suit, Fraser? You know. But that same kind of really, and I told him about the exams. And I said, one of the funnest memories for me is when you go over to India and China and you tell people in India and China that one of the most English things you can do is have an Indian or a Chinese meal on a Friday night.
Yeah,
And they don't believe you. They think you're taking the mickey. But the reason I mentioned the China thing, I think it was the last tour I did. Because I did Hong Kong in late 19 when all the riots were happening.
yeah,
That was a colourful trip. Um, but I can remember doing China, I think it was probably 2018, and a friend of mine passed away while I was away.
oh no,
And I spoke to the person running the trip, and I just said, "Look, no problem if not, but is there any chance I can get back a day earlier so I can go to the wake?" And bless her, she sorted it out for me, which was lovely of her. But it meant I was left with a whole spare day at the end of the trip just to not do anything. And of course, over there, you get put kind of in a hotel in the middle of nowhere sometimes on a roundabout with seemingly 18 lanes of traffic all going in opposite directions, and you think, I'd probably just stay in the hotel. But eventually I got bored and just went for a walk. And I just remember walking for what felt like forever, and eventually came to the end of the shops. And they all kind of sell the same stuff over
yeah,
there. And eventually I turned round and went into this shop. Just I think I was thirsty or something, and I thought they'll have a drink. And there was no sign, there was no door, there was nothing in there at all. Nothing on the shelves. There was just a bloke in a suit with an empty fish tank behind him, writing on a piece of paper. And he didn't look up to acknowledge that I was there at all. And I stood there for probably 30 seconds. And my first thought wasn't, well, he's not even spoken to me yet. That's a bit rude. It was more just, I wonder what he sells. Because if it's fish, he hasn't got any left. And if it's fish tanks, he's got one left. I think I'm ready to go home now. You know, and it was one of those moments where I thought, I don't think I've ever felt this sort of lonesome and isolated ever. Everything from here is going to be easier, you know. And it was. I look back and laugh at it now and just think it's weird to think that you have these moments, but I think they're really important. And I don't know if you find it, but when I get back from something like NAM, if someone asks me the day after how it was, my answer will be very different a month later. Not because it will be better or worse, but I don't process things immediately. Things kind of just whir in the back of my brain, and I think, oh, actually, I learned this, and this conversation with this person was really useful, and it's helped me with this, and it's helped me with that. Maybe I'll do more of this.
yeah.
So I just find that the process just kind of happens as quickly as it happens, and I always end up a lot more grateful a little further down the line in those trips. You know.
I think that's really interesting because it's kind of a better way of. Well, it's certainly helping me understand where I was at because I wouldn't. I found myself not reflecting at all. You know, because I'd get back from the NAM show and then I'd just be full steam ahead. You know, because
Yeah.
that there'd be a need for me to get straight back into delivering so that I could pay the bills. So
Yeah. Totally.
there wasn't time for me to appreciate what I was there for or what I was doing. And I've got some amazing memories. You know, I mean, the first time I went was in 2004, and I went every year until the pandemic, and I went twice
Wow.
twice afterwards. And on the last trip, a lot happened on the last trip. But I realised that Los Angeles and all boroughs thereof, it was wearing me out.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't like the city is fantastic. I mean, you know, yeah, it's literally fantastic. It's amazing. And what I found I was doing is I was lengthening the trip, so like the show would be, you know, either at the middle or the end. And naturally, when you arrive, your adrenaline's up, your energy's up, you're excited, you want to be there, and then those 8 lane highways at the end were kind of just, you know, it's just like, well, you know, the M1's not that bad
Yeah.
after all, is it? You know.
No, it's a cakewalk. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found that it was wearing me out, and I was just a little bit lost. And it was no one's fault. There was no problem. It was just trying to find like, or rather re-identify the reason why I was still doing what I was doing. You know,
Mm.
and you know, I've since met people that have, and this is why, like, I look at your list here. I mean, you know, I mean, I'd like to talk about the the sort of big headlines in your career, like, you know, guitarist, harp guitarist, voiceover actor, and then G7's capos.
Sure.
But it's I we you know I tend to use the phrase portfolio career because we're still creative, but I've met more and more
Mm.
people that have had 2 or 3 career changes.
Yeah, yeah,
I
totally.
find it fascinating. Like you know, if you think about what I said a moment ago about like being sold the idea that if you weren't doing this, that, and the other continually, you weren't successful. It's
Yeah, yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
not the case, is it?
No, and do you know something, Paul? I think when I started doing this job with G7th, it was July. I always remember it. It was 2nd of July, 2019, and it was a complete accident how I started doing it. And there was definitely that part of me that just thought, not, you know, not Jack Black School of Rock, am I selling out, man, kind of thing,
Hmm.
by getting a salary and, you know, all of this. But I have to say now, knowing that I have, you know, I'm employed, you know, I have a salary. I'm still registered as a, you know, a sole trader as well. I still do lessons and recording and all that stuff.
Mm.
But knowing that I don't have as much pressure there, I'm doing so every year I do an album. I'll give it a bit of a plug. It won't be everyone's cup of tea, but for those who like this particular kind of tea, it might be. So if you think of bands like Nile, Decapitated, Blood Red Throne, you know, that kind of stuff, I do a bunch of solos every year for an album for a friend of mine, John. He plays in a band called Moose Cult, and it's a ton of fun. And I've never actually met him in person. I've done 2 albums for him so far, and I'm in the process of doing the third one. And you know what I get paid from doing that, I don't look at that and just think, oh, okay, good. Well, that's that much this month. I've got to earn this much more to make it up to what I need. I just look at it and think, well, that's nice to be able to do that as an extra. I'll do a few less lessons this month then,
Yeah.
you know, which is extra stuff anyway. And it's really nice to be able to free that space up in my head. It feels like there's a lot less pressure there riding on it financially, so I can just enjoy the process because it means that then I can sit down and involve the hive mind. I can think, right, I've got to get into death metal mode for a few weeks. Facebook, which death metal bands is everyone listening to at the moment? And inevitably, there's loads of newer bands that I've maybe heard bits of, and all of these subgenres. Well, you know, you say death metal, but I'm more a fan of grind, thrash, gore, death, whatever core. And you think, that's great. I'm guessing only your band is classed as that, is it? And this is a plug for your band, who happen to be playing in Nottingham next week at the Old Angel. You know, so it's nice. It gets me into different, you know, different players. And I always have a short list mentally of, okay, well, if it's this style, there'll be lots of this technique, lots of whammy bar abuse, lots of this, lots of that. And I like you said earlier about wearing different hats. I really like wearing different hats for shorter periods of time.
Mm.
I think bizarrely yesterday, Nick G7th Nick said a friend of his is a tuba player, as am I, and I don't play very much these days. But he said, oh, he wants a few lessons just to get back in the saddle. And I thought, I honestly can't remember the last time I even got my tuba out. So I better do that because I don't know how much help I can be. But it'll be nice to dust it off again. The last time I remember actually using it, I did one note on one song on my album back in 2017, just for a joke,
Yeah.
really. And I thought, I've got it in the cupboard under the stairs, and it hasn't seen the light of day for sort of 8 years. So it'll be nice to play that again. Um, and I found myself saying a sentence that sounded a bit odd out loud, but I do think it's true, and I think you, of all people in particular, will relate to this. So with something like the tuba, I started playing it when I was about 12, and I'm quite a stocky guy, and I was the same kind of build, obviously 20% smaller when I was that
Yeah.
age, or maybe 30% smaller. And so they looked at me and originally gave me a trombone mouthpiece and said, buzz into this. So I did, and I made a buzzy sound, and they went, there you go, you can play the trombone. And I thought, oh, good, okay. So I went to get this trombone later that day, and they said, actually, just try this one.
Yeah.
And they handed me this bucket sized mouthpiece. I said, what's this? I said, tuba mouthpiece. So I did the same thing, and they went, oh, there you go. Play the tuba. And I thought, okay, good. Well, I didn't want any mates anyway, so that'll see to that, won't it? And and it worked. But apart from you, Paul, it's just me and you against the world. And so I started playing the tuba, and of course now I look back on it and see it very differently. I was quite shy when I was that age, and I think when you play, I forget the guy's name now. There's a bloke who does a video all about Pechelbel's canon and playing the double bass, and there's a quote in there that says, "It's impossible to be cool when your instrument's larger than you." And it wasn't quite larger than me, and I wasn't bothered about being cool anyway. But I think the more the more time that passes, the more I realise when you play an instrument that not many people play, you tend to get all of the work in inverted commas. And my fear is that if I start playing the tuba again and I start telling my buddies that I'm playing tuba again, oh, you should come and rehearse with us on a Wednesday night. We only do 4 gigs every twice a year, but that'd be great. Oh, maybe I could do that, but then that'll interfere with my sitting in cold water time.
Yeah.
Maybe I could practice while I'm in the cold water. So I'm just a bit wary of getting involved with other things again. It's not that I categorically don't want to, but I'm aware. I know where that road leads. If I open that door, there's lots of tuber-shaped opportunities, maybe, and I just think I don't know how much time I've got, how much brain space I've got, but at the same time, I'm long in the tooth enough, I suppose, to know when I can shut that door.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do the odd Christmas concert. That would actually be quite fun. I do miss it. But I'll maybe go along for the one rehearsal beforehand. But there's also that part of me who thinks, no, you need to set a good example to the youngsters. You should be there every week because they need to be there every week. So it's that balance, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's funny, funny how that goes, isn't it? But that's something that very recently popped up, like yesterday, and I was chatting to the guy today, and it just makes me think the power of saying no when enough is enough, kind of thing. And I'm not even there yet, so I'm worrying about a thing that hasn't happened. But it's more an awareness, I think, than a worry.
Yeah.
It's just
No, this. I
so
mean,
yeah,
I'm smiling away because I've got a really good friend of mine in California, Pete Gamber. He's a trumpet player, and he's like, well, look, I play rock trumpet, right? So I'm just thinking, like you've like
nice.
playing rock tuba, and it's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
there
Yeah.
you are, you've cornered the market, like you're in. That all of what you've said there is really interesting because I decided in 23 that I wanted to make music, but I didn't know how to do it, necessarily. So anyway, for the first time in my life, I was able to invest and like build a studio. And then last year, I put my album out, and I decided that I would do one album a year, just for me.
Nice.
If other people like it, wonderful, great. But I just need to do this, and
Yeah.
and the reason I'm bringing that in is not because of a shameless plug, but it's totally relevant to what you've just said because my nervousness, and I haven't got to the bottom of this yet, but I stopped playing live in 2012, and my kids were 12 and 10, and of course now they're like 25, 23,
Yeah.
and there's lots of friends of mine who have never seen me play the drums.
Of course. Yeah.
And then I've got one friend who's like, look, let's get a show together. Let's do a Phil Collins Genesis show, and we'll do all the fringe theatres, all the small towns. And I'm like, well,
Nice.
as long as I'm not singing, I'll do the drum bit, but I'm not doing the Phil bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But then I
That's it.
think
Yeah,
to myself, do I want to do that?
yeah,
And then I think to myself,
yeah,
but if I don't know, my family and my friends aren't going to see me play. Um,
yeah. That's true.
and then last week I was at a friend's wedding, and um, the singer found out that I played a bit and dragged me up, and I played half of one song, and it felt good. It did feel good. It there's a lot in this actually. It felt good. It was great because there was a load of people there that had heard that I could play because I told them I could play. But
Yeah,
then I backed it up and I played. I was rusty. I was a rusty nail. I was in time, but I was rusty. So I just thought, you know what, four to the floor. You know, it's a party band.
yeah, yeah.
Let's just do that. Let's not get leery. But it also reminded me, and this isn't private anymore, but I've not shared this thought. It just reminded me that I don't want to be in a wedding band.
There you go. There it
That
is.
and but and
Yeah,
and there is a distinction there because being a guest at a friend's wedding was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But there's such a
yeah.
disconnect. Like the loneliest gigs I've ever done in the world have been New Year's Eves. I did this one New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. It was 2006 New Year's Eve, and the band was like a scratch band. Everyone was a pro player. Everyone was given a pad and they read, but nobody knew each other.
Mm.
But
Weird, isn't
yeah,
it?
but nonetheless, we were good. We were really good. Everyone was a good player, so it kind of gelled a bit. Certainly gelled enough for a New Year's Eve gig. But then, of course, when the clocks chime and it is New Year's Eve and all the guests are hugging each other and Happy New Year and blah 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 blah. There's five or six strangers going, shaking hands. Like, Happy New Year, man. It's such a lonely,
Yeah, yeah.
such a lonely experience. You know, and
It's funny that, isn't it?
yeah, and I
Interesting.
remember driving home, like it's getting close to 2 a.m. Driving home, thinking, have I landed? Like, is that it? Do you know what I mean? Is that
Yeah,
what is that what being a pro player is? Wow,
absolutely. It's a thought, isn't it?
it is a thought.
Quite a thought.
Yeah. Whereas now, much like you, I'm in a room in the house. I'm in the roof actually, and this is my studio. My drums are here. They go through my interface into my computer, into my Mac, and blah 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 blah. We all know the setup. It's not different for anyone, but here it is, and you know you. I could send you a part, you could send me a part, and we can collaborate and we can do the thing, and we're away, right? Like the world's changed, technology's changed. It enables us. Do I want to be? And I remember another gig actually, because it is relevant. I was driving back. It was Nottingham to Devon to do the gig and back the same night because typically there's no budget for a hotel, right?
Nottingham to Devon.
Yeah,
Blimey.
yeah,
How long did that
Dorish.
take? Sorry, you're probably going to tell me, weren't you?
About
Oh, it's a
well
long way.
5+ hours on the way out and over 10 hours on the way back because my car broke down. So
Oh,
I remember
mate.
watching. I remember I was on the bank of the M5 waiting for RAC or whoever to turn up, and the sun's coming up, and I remember getting in at like 6 in the morning and just thinking, yeah, I've like rock and roll. I've landed. Like
I've made it.
yeah, and it's much like your hotel on the traffic island in Hong Kong, where it's like what I'm saying is that the reality can be different to the dream, right? It often is.
Oh, definitely. And I think they're very sobering, those moments, personally, and so many that they're not always at the forefront of my mind. But when someone mentions one of theirs, and I think, oh, blimey, yeah, I can remember one like that. And I think that's a good thing, isn't it? Because it maybe makes you appreciate it a bit more.
Yeah,
And what you want in time changes, doesn't it? I mean, obviously in all areas of your
yeah,
life, but I think in terms of performing and gigging and stuff like that. I don't do as many gigs as I used to, but I'm a little bit more, and I don't mean this in an egotistical way. I'm a bit more selective now.
Yeah.
If someone's just, oh, do you want to come and play at this pub in London? I mean, it's only 25 quid if we get 100 people there on a Wednesday night. You'll get a guaranteed 15 minutes, and you think, well, that's great. Um, but I'm quite a long way from London, and I'll probably go to the cinema with the missus that night. So maybe I won't do that. And back in whatever day, 10 years ago, I just sort of think, well, a full diary's a good one, and it is to a degree, isn't it? But at the same time, you know, I know there was a bit of a turning point a handful of years ago. We went to see Kiefer Sutherland in Manchester, and I think it was the first time that I'd ever driven that far for a gig and not just driven back in the same evening. And I just thought, let's just get we always do premiere ins because they're pretty consistent. Now and then you go somewhere different, don't you? And I just remember thinking, I don't have to drive 8 hours in one day. I could do, but why would I when I don't need to?
Yeah.
I'm a bit older now. I mean, I'm not old. Old's relative anyway, isn't it? But I just think I'll feel knackered for the next 3 days if I do
Yeah.
that. We'll get back at 4 in the morning or something silly like that, and work the next day will be a drag, and then I'll be catching up for another few days.
Yeah.
So I suppose those things just change a bit as you get older, don't they? And I think every now and then maybe you need something that's a bit harsh to kind of give you a bit of a reality slap. You
Yeah.
know, something that maybe should have changed a while ago, but for whatever reason it hasn't done, and you think, all right, fine, yeah, perhaps I'll fix that now. Then you've had the engine management light on in your car for a year. Perhaps I should check the oil, or get someone to do. So but yeah, I think every now and then it's quite good to have those sobering moments, and I'm sure everyone's got them, and maybe they don't want to admit to all of them.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to share them,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because it's
Life isn't
you can learn.
always blue sky, is it? It just that's it.
No,
And it's not
no, it's not.
it's
No,
not woe is us, and I'm not trying to put a dampener on a career as a creative. I just think that you only know in life if you're having a good day if you've experienced having a bad day.
oh, totally. And I think this is a relevant one. I'll just drop this in here if it's all right. Years ago, when I was at uni, so I went to Coventry Uni, 2009 to 2012, and I'll leave out the swear words that the guy used because there were many. But it's a chap called Martin Atkins, and he was the drummer for Public Image Limited for quite some time. I think he's played with Ministry as well. I think Nine Inch Nails, a lot of other bands. And at the time, he just launched a book called Tour Smart, and it was really good. And I bought a hard copy of it. I think we've still got it somewhere. And I'll always remember the very first thing he did. He came in, and so this was 16 years ago, some odd.
Yep.
And he came in and he had his PowerPoint presentation ready. And he came in, he didn't say hello. He just pressed a button on his computer, and a slide flashed up and said, "Music is not necessary." And then he walked out for 5 minutes. And we all kind of looked at each other and thought, what's this all about? Does he know this is a music course? And he came in and said, "Is everybody nicely annoyed at me now?" And we all kind of went, "Oh," annoyed and confused. And he went, "Let me explain." And he said, "I've got a mortgage, I've got a studio, I'm married, I've got 4 children, I've got all of this stuff, and I'm a full-time producer, drummer, and lots of other things. But why should anybody care? Why should anyone pay me for any of it? I'm very, very lucky to work in this industry, because if you lose your job tomorrow, your priority won't be getting another drum lesson. It'll be putting food on the table and paying the mortgage.
Yeah.
So every time you think, oh, this is a hard industry to work in, it is, but just remember, you don't have to work in it, and no one owes you anything." And it was one of those things that it was annoying at first, but the more time that's passed, and funnily enough, I spoke to him the other day, and he popped up on a feed somewhere, and the reason that he popped up, and this is this might seem very bizarre, but at the end of the talk, he was talking about merchandising, and he passed this vinyl around, and he said, "It's a scratch and sniff. So give it a scratch and smell it, and I'll tell you what it is if you can't guess." And none of us could place it. And he said, "It's blueberry flavour." And the uni building used to be next door to a Sainsbury's, and he pulled out this Sainsbury's bag full of 4 packs of blueberry muffins. And he chucked out all these packs of blueberry muffins, and he said, "This has just cost me 30 quid in muffins, but now, for the rest of your life, every time you eat a blueberry muffin, you'll think about me, and you might buy something that I've done." And here I am 16 years later telling you about it. So it worked.
That's
I
amazing.
haven't Yeah, I haven't bought his whole discography. He's not earned much money out of me, but I'm telling you about it. Maybe someone will go and listen to him now
Yeah,
as a result. And it really stuck with me. But the whole music is not necessary thing, obviously, if you just leave it at that, it doesn't say much. But the way that he backed it up and reinforced it, I thought, I'm going to listen to this guy because he's been doing it for longer than I've been alive. I think he knows
yeah,
more than I do. So I want to know some of what he knows. And that really brought all of us back down to earth, I think. All the ones of us that wanted to learn it did. Some people were kind of like, oh, what do you know?
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
fantastic guitar player. Well, maybe you are, but what are you going to do with it?
yeah,
I know hundreds of guitar players who are far better than I am, and they're not working as guitar players for various reasons because so many people now have rooms smaller than the one I'm in and the one you're in, and they're making a living streaming full time, never doing a gig in their life, like in front of other people because they don't need to and they like doing that. And I just think whatever works for you.
yeah,
It's a couple of years ago, my brother and I wrote this gypsy jazz album together for this label down in London. And I think it's a lot of, not just guitarists, but a lot of musicians' dream to get royalty based work and that kind of thing. And I'd always sort of thought, oh, doing some sync work would be great. I'd love to write some stuff that might get used in TV or film.
hmm,
Wouldn't we all? But how on earth do you go about that? So we spent all this time writing this album. It was hard work, but it was a lot of fun. And we're now a year or two down the line, and we're starting to earn a little bit from it. And it's one of those things that I look at it, and you can look at it one or two ways. You can think that's a tiny amount of money, but then the second time we got paid for it, it was almost 100 times more. Now I'm still talking pence and pounds. I'm not talking thousands, but it shows me that it works.
yeah,
There's it's a thing that I'm now a part of, and kind of like with the voice acting, I've not been doing it very long. Um, But this show that I just went and did, although it was a guitar show, I was able to go to it thinking I've got dozens of videos up now on my social media that I can say to people, "Oh well, yeah, I'm an aspiring voice actor, trying to be one. Here's some stuff I've done," rather than me just saying, "Yeah, I'm thinking of getting into it." All right, well, when I can hear something, tell me about it then.
yeah,
It's a bit like, here's our demo. I mean, we've got better songs. Well, let me hear them then. You know, it's that kind of let's wait for the good stuff. And I do get it. I kind of see both sides of it. But it's been nice to sort of delve into something different
yeah,
and wear another hat really. And I think it was nice at the show. Like half a dozen people or thereabouts sort of said, "Oh, how's that all going? I saw that video of Kermit the Frog or something you did the other day. How'd you do that?" You think, well, I was kind of well, Kermit the Frog. I don't really know how I do the voice, but sounds a little bit like it, hopefully. But yeah, and I think it's definitely got me learning some new skills in terms of audio and video and editing shorts for YouTube and all this kind of
yeah.
thing. And I get very frustrated because I think, why didn't I start doing this ages ago? Well, because I didn't, but I'm doing it now.
Yeah,
So
and it's interesting, because you that's the kind of that's the decision that I reached, was that if you think about what I was saying earlier in this chat, that I could lose hours imagining that I was doing it, like, yeah, I'm gonna do that and it's gonna be great. Well, actually, just do it,
yeah,
and if somebody likes it, that's wonderful. But just do it for you. Just do it, and
yeah,
that's why I'm putting stuff out, and I've got another album coming out probably in December.
brilliant.
And people people are really kind. Like, it fascinates me where people are listening. Like, they are listening all over the world, but you know, let's just caveat that with a strong reality check. We're talking, it's not life changing numbers, but it means a hell of a lot to me.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
totally,
and that's really really important. And because it's nice. The reason it's important is it's nice that someone's giving me the time to listen to what I'm doing. You
absolutely.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
did you start on the tuba then? Because obviously I know you as a harp guitarist, but
yeah, yeah.
was tuba the first instrument?
Well, I'll tell you that, but before I do, nice one on the albums, mate, as well. I look forward to hearing. Yeah, please do send me some links over because I'd love to have a proper listen
No,
to it
thank
because
you.
it's no, I think it's far too easy, isn't it? Just to well, I, s- I suppose with anything like that, if everybody's releasing stuff, or not everybody is, but if you're not careful, all you do is talk about how you're releasing stuff, and you don't give each other a proper listen,
Yeah.
And I think, and I make a lot more effort to do that these days, and I like swapping new tracks with people, before I release something. Oh, have a listen to this. I've got two versions of it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so no, please do send it over. I'm really really keen to have a listen.
No, and
But
likewise,
instrument wise,
let's make sure that we've got links to all your work in the show notes for this as well, because
sure, yeah,
know,
thank you.
it's important. It is important. Obviously, I'd like to listen to it as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. It's definitely important, isn't it? And I think instrument wise for me, I actually started on the
Wow.
piano. I sort of tinkered around when I was sort of 4 or 5. My mum's a pianist, a very, very good one. She went to the academy 60 odd years back, 50 years back. Sorry, mum, got your age wrong. Um, yeah, 55 years ago ish. Um, and I did grade 4, I think, when I was about 11. But to be honest with you, I never really practiced a lot. I was never very good, and I blame the piano less and less for that now. Um, and I kind of enjoyed it. But the thing for me was, I really loved the right hand, and I was quite good at reading treble clef, but bass clef never really made much sense. And so I got to the point where memorizing the bass part, I kind of hit a wall with that, and I thought, yeah, above grade 4, I can't really blag this anymore. So when I went to secondary school, I said to my parents, I really want to learn another instrument, but I don't know what. And it ended up being the tuba. But bizarrely, what then happened was, so when I was 13, um, talking about Summerfield earlier, other shops that don't exist anymore, my brother went to the bargain bin in Woolworths,
Oh wow.
and yeah, and bought an Iron Maiden single. This was back in 2000 when they released Brave New World, and it was the single for the song The Wicker Man,
Yeah.
and it was £1 in the bargain bin. And he played it to me, and I'd never heard anything like that before. And I'm genuinely getting a bit emotional now remembering it, because I can still remember the moment I heard it. And I went out and bought, I thought, I really hope they've got a copy of it still.
Yeah.
So I went and bought it, and I've still got it. And I found one in the local record shop a few months back, and it was a tenner rather than a quid. So I've got a copy of it in the car now. Um, but yeah, and I heard that song, and I think it was probably the day after I was at school walking across the playground, and there was a plectrum on the floor. And I don't do things happen for a reason really, but I thought, oh, that's one of them things you use to play guitar, isn't it? Well, I'll have a go then, because my dad's a guitarist and violinist, and both my parents play multiple instruments. But I just said to Dad, I've heard Iron Maiden. Can you teach me how to play like that? And he said, well, no, I can't, but I've got a classical guitar. I can get you started. So he showed me how to play a bit classical style, and then a bit with fingers and some chords and basic stuff.
Hmm.
And then I can remember Christmas 2000. We got a Mexican Fender Strat in black, which we still have, and then a little amp, which a friend of mine has now, and a little effects box. Can't remember where that went now. And started to learn to play that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I had the tuba thing and the guitar thing going along at the same time. So I had the metal band side of it, and then started to learn other styles, maybe 3 years down the line or so, and I started getting regular guitar lessons, and then the tuba stuff as well. And so it kind of allowed me to dip into these two worlds. And at some point, now I haven't done this yet, but it's definitely something on the list of things I'd love to do. I'd love to do a TED talk about all of it. And the angle from my end is, if you get an opportunity to do something that's a bit outside the norm, like a weirder instrument like the tuba, you might look at it and think, well, that's not going to do much for my street cred. Well, maybe that's why you should do it,
Mm.
because how many tuba players are you going to meet, especially at that kind of age? And as you get older, you'll see all the opportunities it's afforded you.
Yeah.
And so and it kind of ties into the harp guitar thing for me, because I don't do tons and tons of weddings anymore. But whenever I do, 9/10 of the time they'll call me and say, "Bring that weird guitar with you."
Yeah.
Oh, the harp. Okay, right, yeah, fine. Just that one? Like, well, bring the other one if you want. But we're thinking what we'll do is we'll sit you in the corner, and you can play that so everyone can look at. Because I think they figure it will make it a bit more interesting. And you think, well, whatever. It's definitely different looking. Um, and because there aren't many harp guitarists around, especially in Spalding, I'm in the top 3 on my side of the street down my road. You know, on the odd numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like that. And I think piano's fairly mainstream and normal if you like. So's guitar, harp guitar. I mean, I know a lot of harp guitar players, so it doesn't seem weird to me when I see one on the internet, because I know loads of them. But But yeah, so it was piano to start with, then tuba, and then guitar around the same time. And I can play some other instruments to a kind of okay level. You know, I can play the drums a bit.
Yeah.
I can play kind of trumpet a little bit because the fingerings are the same, but at the same time the embouchure is totally different. I remember learning a little bit of sax and a little bit of flute years ago, but it was a very little bit, and I can't remember any of it now. Um, but yeah, so they were kind of at the same time, or thereabouts, tuba and guitar.
Mm.
And the more time that goes on, the more I appreciate how, all the different roads it took me down, and that's why I think it's so lovely now. Like I teach a handful of people still, and there's one lad that I teach. He plays bass, and he's just done his grade 3, and he plays drums and he plays bass. And I went to see him play at the local pub, and I hadn't been to a pub gig in as long as I could remember. And I said to him afterwards, I said, it's great that you've got all the social media to promote it as well, but without this bit, the rest of that's kind of pointless. Don't stop doing this.
Mm.
It was so great, and most of the guys in the band, one of them's about 25 and he's 14. He's got no fear of playing with people way further down the line than him, and I love that. It's great. I see a lot of myself in him,
Mm.
this over enthused kid
Yeah.
who just wants to play all the time, and and he always wants to submit himself really early for exams because he's so keen to smash through the pieces. And after he did his first one, he called me and said, "Thanks for not letting me do that too early."
That's good.
And I thought that's really mature. And so if I'm telling him you're not quite ready to do that yet, I'm not saying no, you're not playing that very well. I'm not saying you're a bad player. It's just a case of, like with my kickboxing, I'm blue belt at the minute, and the last grading is the first time that I've not been ready to do a grading. And it was a bit deflating, but at the same time, my coach was absolutely right. I wasn't ready to do it. I wouldn't have passed it, and I wouldn't have felt safe because the higher up you go through the belts, obviously it can get a bit more dangerous if you're not blocking properly and everything.
Yeah.
And it's not a nice thing to hear, but it's coming from a good place, and as long as it is, then it's all right, isn't it? It's tough love, and we need that sometimes, don't we?
I think so, and I think with the young people that I work with, um, the the ability to respond to positive or constructive feedback, the resilience required, um, uh, they find it tough,
Mm.
and there could be a multitude of reasons for that, but that's life. It's one of the examples I use. I mean, is nobody cares how long, or rather, how many times it took to pass your driving test. They just care if you've got the license
Exactly.
or not.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You know, like, that's it, right?
Oh, definitely. And then, of course, well, it took me 4 goes, but that makes me a better driver. I don't think it does. I just wasn't very good on the first 3, but who cares? I'm driving now. I'm giving you a lift. Is this a problem?
Yeah,
That's the thing,
yeah,
isn't it? And it shows your staying power, doesn't
yeah,
it? And I think I've got a lot of respect for anyone. It took them 3 and 4 goes to do anything, um, and they've kept at it, and they've kept addressing the problem. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's the whole. You said about us being sensitive. I definitely am, but not with everything and not in the same way. I think when it's, being told that you're not quite at a point to do something yet, it's often the way you get told, isn't it?
mm,
But it's about what you do with the feedback, isn't it, as
yeah,
well? I think I think that's partly why I like weight training so much, because if you're underneath whatever, you're underneath 100 kilograms or something, and you think, oh, I can do this for 8 reps, I'll try 105. You get to the third one and you think, I can maybe do 4,
hmm,
but I haven't got anybody else here. That's fine. That's humbled me a bit. That's still an improvement. You don't have to. What the Jordan Peterson quote? You're not aiming low enough. I really like that. I think, and I know he's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not saying I love everything that he says. Don't have to, dear.
no,
But I do think there's a lot of truth in that. I think and for me, I'm sure you found it as well, Paul. Like, you can always tell someone doing a grade 8 exam who hasn't done any grades beforehand, or they haven't been, they've missed out. There's so many holes in their playing,
mm,
and you just think, I would always feel horrible failing someone at grade 2 just before Christmas wearing a, Mickey Mouse with a Christmas hat T-shirt on, and you think, mate, this breaks my heart to fail you, but if I don't, you'll fail grade 3 even worse,
yeah,
and you won't enjoy that. And actually, I'm helping you in the long term, and you won't see that straight away, and that's fine. You don't have to, and that didn't happen very often, but but there would be centres. There's one in particular I could always remember, and they'd put in loads of grade 6, 7, and 8 just before clearing because maybe they haven't quite got enough marks from A levels and AS levels. And they thought, right, if we can get them in at grade 8 and they can get a pass or a merit or something, they can maybe get enough to go to uni.
Yeah.
And you'd hear them play, and you'd think 10 seconds into the first song, you just think, oh, blimey, why on earth did you put this guy in? This isn't fair because he's going to have a really rough ride now. And when you're sitting there knowing you've got to give someone 40 out of 100 and find nice ways of saying you are 2 years away from being ready to do this exam, it's really horrible, isn't it? And you just kind of think, I get it, that the hands are tied, but at the same time, it's, progress isn't always, you don't progress the same amount of time, do you?
No.
You can't just, it's not a grade a year for everybody, is it? I mean, that's
No,
why I
and
never do a set syllabus for
no,
anybody.
yeah, no, I think that's really interesting because um, if 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 we accept that grade 8 is commensurate to an A level, well,
Mm.
I mean, typically A levels are 2 years long, aren't they? Typically,
Yeah, absolutely,
you
yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
it's cumulative as well. That assumes that you're ready to take that step. Should you start there? No. My frustration is that you sometimes see people that are competent playing 3 tracks, but they're not. That's kind of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's no one's fault. That's what it is. You know, there's it's no one's fault. Um, but you'd kind of hope that they'd go home and play along to Queen live at Wembley, or you know, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son for an hour, or like go and play some
Oh, mate,
music.
now you're talking.
Yeah, no, but like go and play some music. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally. It's for me the most beautiful feeling in all of it is when someone comes in and says, or just sits there and starts playing something, and you think, I didn't show them that. It it's worked. The system works, and you just think, wait. I love asking them, where did you learn that? Oh, I watched this YouTube video, or I downloaded a tab. For me, the only aim, or the principal aim, is to get someone confident enough to play stuff when I'm not there.
yeah,
Because I'm not always going to be there. And I just think it's, I'll hold people's hand as long as needed, but I really don't agree with the whole, copy me thing. I think sight reading, they're scary words, but at the same time, this is why I like giving people new stuff every time, because if you do something every week and no one ever tells you that it's difficult, well, you won't think it is. Is it harder playing the 24th fret than the 23rd fret? It's just a bit higher, isn't it? It's a bit harder to keep your fingers in. But I think so much of that is down to the way you're taught, and I love it when people come along. But interestingly, some people will say, "Well, I did learn it from YouTube," as if they're cheating on me.
yeah,
And you think, mate, use all the resources there are. That's brilliant. If you found a YouTube channel that you really resonate with the person who's teaching and you like the method they're using, no offense taken. That's great. As long as you're learning and playing guitar, who cares how you do it?
yeah,
It's just, I think that's brilliant, and it's encouraging because I didn't grow up with all of those aids in quite the same way, and it's not. I mean, my daughter's 18, so she's 20 years younger than me. It's not her fault that the world is advanced as it is now, and it wasn't when I was younger. And if she has kids, it will be even more advanced. And can you be angry at the rest of the world for
all right, so it's a
something
big
that's not their
world.
fault?
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah,
world, and
you
it's a
just
lot of
use
energy.
use what's there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you just use what's there, don't you?
yeah,
And you have to pick and choose, maybe. And I think it's a. I come across videos all the time, like with things like the filming and the recording. I'm never going to be wonderful at them. I wouldn't have thought, but part of the reason I've done it in the way I have is my brother runs a studio down the road, and he's done that for nearly 25 years now. And so if I've ever needed stuff recorded or filming, I just go to him. And many years ago, I made the conscious decision I'm going to learn none of that. I'm going to focus on the guitar. And then when it came to COVID and I was sat at home, I remember saying to him, well, I've got Logic on my laptop. Can we have a few video sessions? Can you just do me a checklist, like an idiot's guide, the Ladybird book of Logic?
yeah,
What do I need to do to record a guitar? And I can't do anything clever, but having said that, what seemed clever 5 years ago now seems like nothing. The way we're recording this now, I wouldn't ever have been able to do that 5, 6 years ago. And and it makes me realise I have improved, and I only need to be at a certain level, really. If I need to do something better than what I can do, well, then I'll get him to do it.
Yeah.
Like he does all the G7 stuff, and in a few weeks we're doing a video. It's going to be a long form, intense video, which I'm actually really looking forward to doing. We took some guitars to the local tech yesterday to get set up for it, and now my mindset is very much okay. Well, I've got a list of half a dozen questions I'm going to ask him about filming. Whereas before, I just think, God, I'm glad I haven't got to do any of that. I'm just going to sit there and attempt to be the eye candy, and when that doesn't work, I'll play the guitar. But now I think, okay, well, tell me what you're doing with the lighting, what you're doing with the ISO and the aperture and all this. It's still stuff that I know very little about, but because he does it for his job, I can just dip in and out and ask him these things. Then I can go off and do my research a bit more, and maybe watching a video that's an hour long. I get it. People have got to make their absence. They've got to earn the money from the YouTube videos. But if I see a video that's 15 minutes long and all I want to do is know how to change the hertz rate, I'm going to watch the shortest one probably,
Yeah.
because that's one button, isn't it? And I know you need to make a few quid out of it, but you know, I'm not interested in that. And so it's all relative, isn't it? Because I'm doing lots of very short videos for the most part because they don't take as long to do and they get a lot more views. But I'm appreciating more and more that that's I'm doing that because that's quick and easy at the moment. And as I get a little bit more fluent with some of these things, I will do longer videos. But I want to make sure that there's actually a point to it before I do it. I don't want to just do a long one for the sake of it and sit there for 10 minutes and not really say anything. You know?
Yeah, and the two are very different, aren't they? Because if you simply want,
Yeah.
if all you need is a fix, you just want an answer to a question, then
Mm.
you need a 10-second video.
Yeah.
But if it's
That's it.
in if it's in conversation with, or let's have a deep dive into, or let's show you how to set your studio up for the first time, well, you might need your hand holding through it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's worthy of a much longer one, isn't
Yeah.
it? And you have to sort of pick and choose, don't you? I remember years ago, I took this lad from never playing through to grade 8 in about 3 years. He did really, really well. And I can remember when he got to grade 8, his dad said, well, he doesn't need lessons anymore now. And I thought, fair enough. So he started working on his diploma. And then his dad called me a few days later and said, he's got this chord, and this chord. What mode can he use over the top of it? And I said, well, I can tell you, um, but it would be handy if he understood why.
Mm.
And he's like, well, he doesn't need to know that. Well, he will actually, because they'll ask him. And I suppose it's a bit like, you get a guy around or a person round to come and look at your boiler, and they say, oh yeah, I just need to press this button, 70 quid. It's annoying, but they only know that because of the years of learning and stuff they've invested in it to know just to push that button.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing, and none of us want to admit that, do we? But I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think the better you get at something, the more you pay for the increasingly smaller bits of knowledge. You learn these tiny little things that maybe cost you more because the tuition is with people who charge more. But I think that's why you should keep doing it, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I don't get lessons as often as I should and would like to, but I still do. And whenever I do get them, sometimes it's just a different person. Even if it's a different person telling you the same thing, I think it just comes from it's coming from all of that person's experience, isn't it? And you think, well, I'll listen to you because you've actually done all these things,
Mm.
and so I probably wouldn't go and get a tattoo from someone with no tattoos. I might do, but what do you know about it?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just if I don't own a guitar, why are you going to listen to me about how to play guitar? You know,
Yeah.
I've seen them. Isn't that enough? you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I knew somebody who had one. It's that.
Yeah, exactly, and it looked painful,
Yeah.
but
No, I think it's
yeah.
interesting, and I think that also, I think that the mistake that people make, and I think it is a mistake, is that when they become professional, quote end quote, they stop having lessons,
Yeah, absolutely.
or you can call it CPD if you like, but they stop,
Mm.
and that's an awkward place for a couple of reasons for me, because you want other people to support you in your artistic and professional endeavors. You whether you're selling time or an album or a physical product, you want people to support you. So you
Of course.
you should support the industry. You know it's a micro economy. It's an ecosystem. We all have. It's like you said earlier. You know, like you'd like to listen to my music. I'd like to listen to yours. Well, that's lovely. That's the way it should be. You shouldn't. You
Yeah,
know, and then we're all winning.
I
We're all
agree.
winning, right? Everybody wins.
Totally. And yeah, funnily enough, the reason that I started working for Rock School, I don't know if I've told you this before, but when I was at uni and we got into the third year, obviously third year, it's properly knuckle down. Finally, actually go to the oh, that's where the library is. Um, but uh, but yeah, and I can remember I used to get lessons. I think he runs the music course there now. So a lovely guy called Rich Hall, fantastic guitar player. And you'd get X amount of lessons allocated per year. I think it was maybe 8 hours or so,
Mm.
and I still had a few left. And the very last thing that I did before I left uni for the last time, like packed all of my stuff up, and I had one more guitar lesson. So I went along and had a guitar lesson, and we didn't do very much, but we more chatted about things. And he just said, "Well, what's your plan from here?" And at the time, I was 25, and I was still teaching, I was still gigging, so I had something to go back to. I had a bit of a teaching practice. And he said, "Well, I used to be a rock school examiner. Have you come across rock school?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I teach rock school. And I've done some of the exams." And he said, "Well, you could apply to be an examiner." And in that moment, I realised it had never occurred to me that you could just apply to be an examiner.
Mm.
Because I'd never thought about it before. And so this was 2012, and I remember looking into it, and it was a 4-part process. And back then, you had to do a personal statement, you had to do a video of you performing, a video of you explaining a musical topic, and then I think a written CV as well. And I couldn't get the videos to upload. So I was on holiday in Doniford Bay, I think, a few weeks after that, and I put them on a CD and physically posted them to Rock School. And that was how I had to do it. I couldn't get the upload to
Yeah.
work, and I didn't actually get the job the first time round. The second time round, I didn't interview for it. My stepdad he was a mechanic, and he worked on an industrial estate in a place called Somersham, and there was a rock school centre next door to him, and the CEO at the time was examining there.
Ah.
And my stepdad will talk to anyone, and he just said, "Oh, so what do you do then?" He said, "Oh, we just haven't got enough examiners." And he said, "Oh, my stepson applied a few years ago, but I think for the most part, it sounds like he didn't get the job because he didn't have any experience, but he's now working at Coventry Uni, so he's got higher level examining experience," which is true. That's what I started doing. And so he said, "Oh, give him my number then. We won't bother interviewing him. If he's already got some experience, we'll just train him for a day and see if he's any
Yeah.
good." And it took me about 5 months of calling or emailing or texting almost every day, and finally got in touch with him. Busy guy. And so it took, from the first time I applied to work with Rock School to actually starting work, was 2 years. But the reason that I became an examiner at all is because I had a guitar teacher, and my mindset is, if I'm paying someone to teach me something, I'm going to ask them absolutely everything about it.
Yeah.
If I go to, like, I've got a lesson next week with someone in the voiceover world, and I've got 20 things I want to ask her, and I'm sure after I've asked her 5 of them, I'll have 10 more
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know more than me, and I'm paying for your time. Be prepared for me to bombard you in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
But I expect that people to do that to me as well. If people want to know how to get into examining or to this or into that, I'll gladly help them if I think they're going about it in the right way. If they just can't be bothered to find out for themselves on certain things, I when I started working at uni, I was a bit too giving at first, and my boss at the time said, "You need to be introduced to a new method, and it's called put it in an email." And he said, "You've got all these guitarists who tell you they can't think of anything to play for their exam, and you're printing a load of music off and bringing it in for them. Just tell them some songs. They can go and print it off. They can go and find it.
Yeah.
Or if you want to know if they're serious, give them your email and say, 'Drop me an email and I'll send you the music.' 9 times out of 10, none of them will. But the ones who do, they're the ones who are a bit more serious."
Yeah.
And that's really stuck with me, because if you do all of the helping for someone, then you're actually not helping them in the long run, are you? You can't do the exam for them,
No.
and that goes against my nature a bit, because you know, I like to help people, but I think I've realised that what I view helping as has changed a lot over the years. Because if you do everything for someone, they're not capable of doing it on their own, so they can't help themselves. Then, can they?
No,
They don't have to learn.
no, yeah, I get that. I help a lot of people. I have done, but in the end, you can't. It's not our job to take the journey for them.
No,
You,
that's it.
you know, you can, and that's again that's where a good teacher uh, is really important, because it's not just theory or licks or chops, or it can be signposting and mentoring to career opportunities, or
That's it.
advice as to, well, look, I think you should go into higher education and do this, or you know what I'm saying. Like
Mm.
it's a complete universe
Yeah, yeah,
of stuff, um, and I think there is a disconnect between. Well, no, not. Let me strike that a bit. Let me backtrack a bit. Not a disconnect, but there's a conversation to be had around what is a music lesson. You know, is it notes per minute?
definitely.
Is it notes per minute, or is it a much more? Because I subscribe to the idea that art is a process. It's not a task. So
Mm?
you know,
Yeah,
don't come to me for notes per minute, and don't be offended if I leave you alone for 5 minutes for you to just kind of work it through.
mm.
You know,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm I'm your teacher, your mentor. What I am not is your accompanist.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, it's a. I had somebody once come along and say, "Can you teach me grade 8?" And I'm not sure that's the thing, really.
Yeah,
Why do you, what am I going to do? Sit here and teach it? You go away and learn it as best you can, and then my job is to get the comb out and comb through it with you and identify the problem
yeah,
areas. But teaching you grade 8, what does that even mean? Can you teach me black belt? Well, if you got brown belt at the minute, yeah. Well, here are a load of videos of what you need to do. Come for a one-on-one every three or 4 weeks with me. I'll knock you into shape, but the 10% I'm giving you only works if you do the other 90% on your own.
yeah.
It's more just knocking it into shape and keeping the rust off, isn't it? And then glossing it up a bit. I think so. Yeah, the bit.
Especially at
Yeah,
that level, especially at that level.
yeah, definitely.
You know,
I agree.
because you it's sport or music, you know, or the arts more broadly. At that level, you've gone past the mechanics, haven't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
You've
know,
transcended that part of it definitely.
yeah, yeah, and it should be more. I think it should be more inquiry based learning. You know, it should be more. Don't teach me how to play one song. Give me what I need to go and play 1,000 songs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. How can I read the tab? How can I read the dots? How do I read the chord boxes? Don't just show me Wonderwall.
Yeah,
You know, show me that if you want, but show me the other stuff
yeah,
too. It's a.
yeah,
So yeah, I agree. Learn the method rather than just the thing at the end of it.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, take the journey. Don't worry about the destination. Just take the journey. You know, it's that.
Very true. That's
So
it. Steven Tyler said it best,
yeah,
didn't he?
quite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the voiceover, voice acting, is that a relatively new thing
Mm.
for you?
Yeah, I think it was about February kind of time that I posted the first video, and essentially it was I don't know if you've seen a film called The Bucket List
Yeah,
before, and
I love that film.
so all it is there you go, it's cracking film, isn't it?
Yeah,
And I took the first scene of it, just screen recorded it, and wiped Morgan Freeman's voice off it. And not that I thought I'm going to be a Morgan Freeman impersonator. I just thought, well, a good bit of advice someone gave me. A friend of mine, Jesse Causey, he's a voice actor, a voice director. I talked to him years ago, and he saw me put this first thing up and dropped me a message and said, "Oh, well, that's what I do. I'll give you a hand if you like." And he's been very gracious and he's been helping me along. And when I first kind of got my feet wet with it, he said, "Find as many voices as you can that are similar to your own, because they'll be the easiest ones to do." And I thought, well, I've got a pretty low voice. It's not exactly like his, but it's going to be easier to do that than Joe Pasquale or somebody. Um, and I think once I did that first bit and I put it out into the world, it made me think, I had a few other things going on in my life, work wise, personal wise, that were a bit complicated, and I had to kind of wait for certain things.
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay, well, I've done what I can there. I want something positive and new. And something that I have found over the years, quite a few people have told me, oh, I think you'd have a good voice for that. You've got quite a soothing but commanding voice, or however they worded it. But I kind of viewed it as, if your friends tell you that you're funny, it doesn't mean you can necessarily get up and do stand up. Like,
Yeah.
you'd
Yeah.
hope that they'd be honest, but they're probably being nice as well. Um, and I remember a friend of mine at uni who used to do stand up. He said, if you're on stage telling jokes and no one's laughing, it's the loneliest place in the universe. And that really stuck with me. And I thought, the loneliest place in the universe, wow. Because if they don't laugh at the first one, you've got another 4 minutes 45 seconds of probably no more laughing. So at least if you're playing guitar, you can hide behind that for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So and then I think something I remembered, and this didn't occur to me straight away. I've always loved cartoons, and I still watch probably as many now as I always used
Yeah.
to. But when my daughter was little, probably sort of 4, you know what it's like with young kids. They don't want to brush their teeth. They don't want to have a bath. They don't want to put their pajamas on and all this. And so I used to do silly voices for each thing. So there was a character for hair. There was one for getting in the bath, one for getting dry. And it suddenly sort of clicked back into my head while I was doing this. And I thought, oh, so I came up with some voices. Maybe I guess that's something that felt kind of natural and just silly, really. And so I started experimenting with different voices. And then my better half and I, we go to HorrorCon every year, and we went to HorrorCon in May. And the first thing that we saw was a guy called John Cassier doing a talk all about being a voice actor. And it hadn't occurred to me that I hadn't really looked at the lineup. And he did the voice of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt, and he's there talking in that voice, and you think, oh blimey, it's really him. And I don't normally ask questions at these things, but I thought, I'm going to, because this is a guy who's a professional in the industry. And I asked him a few things, and then I went and chatted at the booth with him afterwards, and he just said, just remember, it's a license to be silly. Because if you're filming it, obviously that adds another dimension. He said, but film yourself doing it anyway,
Yeah.
because you might need to do something with your face or your body to get into a certain voice, and you might forget how to do it. And he said, but above all, however silly you need to be, if you're trying to do so and so's voice and it's a character and you need a costume, or you need to, yeah, whatever, well, you need to be doing a certain something, sitting down, standing up on the floor, just try it. No one's going to see you unless you show them. And it was really inspiring, and I've just been experimenting since then, really, and trying out different voices. And Nick from G7th sent me a text one day and said, can you do Venom? And I thought, I've never seen Venom, but I know what the voice sounds like. So I went onto YouTube and thought, oh, I'll give that a go. And it was, look into my eyes, Nick. We can do whatever we want, for we are Venom. That kind of
Wow.
thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't pretend to know loads about the mechanics, but it feels like it's just lots of air passing over the vocal cords for that one. So I tried that, and then I tried the Kermit one. And then, of course, people give you suggestions for things. And something that I've found that seems to work quite well, I'll go live on TikTok or somewhere, and I'll do that on my phone. Then I've got the laptop next to me, and I was trying to think how I could make it fun and engaging. Because if I'm just sat there or stood there talking, how interesting is that? But I just thought, right, tell me your voice and I'll have a go. Can't promise I can do it. But there are so many people suggesting voices, characters I've never heard of, or that I've heard of them, but I don't know what they sound like. And it's really good fun. And it's helping me explore the inside of my head and thinking, well, how can I make my voice do that? How can I make it do this? And I found that in the morning, when my voice is really sort of gruff and husky, that's when it's good to do a voice like that. So a Venom one, or there's a character called Maurice the Hormone Monster from a show called Big Mouth that I've been trying to do a few times recently, and he's got a voice like that too. So I'll try those ones in the morning, then the cleaner ones later in the day when I'm a bit more warmed up. And Eva Brand from Rock School, who we both know and have an awful lot of time for, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
She put me onto these things. Where's mine? Oh, I can't see it at the moment. It's here somewhere. It's called a vocal tube for warming up, and that's been really interesting as well. And she's given me a lot of info and a lot of tips, and it's been really good fun. I've only done one kind of proper job, in inverted commas, and it's for a game that comes out in February. And my friend Jesse put me onto this role, and it's the role of the helmsman in a game called Battle Space. I believe. And it's a very, very small part. It's 4 or 5 lines. But that was kind of what I wanted for the first one, because I thought I'd rather get 4 lines wrong than a whole novel, you know? And so I've been building a vocal booth at home. It's nearly finished now. I just need to get one more thing. But the deadline crept up a bit, and all of a sudden he called me and said, it needs to be done today.
Oh.
I'll show you a trick. So we went and got a duvet. And I've got a photo of me with, hottest day of the year, I think it probably was, as it would be. Duvet over the top to muffle everything. The setup of it took about 40 minutes, and the recording took about 2.5 minutes. So it was an interesting one, but it was very inspiring. And the bizarre thing with it is it got me an IMDb credit as well.
Oh, excellent.
And and I don't know very much about these things yet, but I'm pretty sure we've all had accidental good gigs where you open up for someone who's sold out a venue, and most people there don't know who you are. Everything after that will be a little bit bland, won't it? So I'm not under any illusion. I'm not going to get that for everything that I do. But there's a few other things kind of in the pipeline. I've just been reading some short stories for a friend of mine, and they're going to be for Amazon Kindle, I believe. So I'm looking forward to doing those properly. But yeah, it's been a really fun thing. I'd say it's probably only been 2 or 3 months or thereabouts that I've been getting a bit more serious and a bit more regular with it. And I have found fairly on into the process it kicked in. I don't really have any feelings about seeing myself or hearing myself anymore on film or video. I just kind of think, oh, it's me again. I look the same and sound a bit different, but I'm doing that deliberately. And at first, it was quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
I've never particularly liked the sound of my own voice. I don't go back and listen to my own songs really, not because I'm embarrassed by them, but I just don't. But I think you should do a bit more often. I think I've been doing that more recently, and noticing these, certain things about my voice. So I've really been enjoying it, and I'm going to do some more later on today. I've got a few more voices that people have asked me to try, and at the moment I've got no idea how I'm going to do them. But I quite like that. I'll figure out all the stuff that definitely doesn't work, and then not do that, and then try something else. And we went to the cinema last night to see Donnie Darko, and the adverts beforehand. I think I did notice this before anyway, but I'm picking up a lot sooner on who. Oh, Stephen Graham's doing the voiceover for this advert.
Okay.
Oh, Carl Pilkington's doing the voice for that. So I think I'm dialing into that a lot more quickly. Oh, it's Stephen Merchant. Oh, it's Dame Edna Everidge or whoever it might be. So that's been an interesting one, and I think I've always been a big fan of stand-up comedy as well, and I think something I've realised more and more over the years, it's often the way people say things that make me laugh.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than what they say, because when someone's telling you a joke, if it's really, really kind of, so then this bloke went and did this, and yeah, oh, good. Whereas if it was Lee Evans telling it to you, you'd probably kind of laugh, whatever it is, because it's the way that he puts it across, isn't it? That makes you laugh as well. There's a visual element as well, I suppose. So yeah, the voice acting stuff, I'm still pretty new to it, but kind of like with the harp guitar, I've been playing that for 14 years, I think, but realistically, I'm probably 30 seconds ahead of someone who's never played one. That's how I kind of figure it as well. If ever anyone says, oh, it looks really hard, well, anything's hard when you haven't done it, isn't it? Just sit there and strum a G and play the G string. You're now a harp guitar player, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, I look forward to literally hearing some of your work. So, I think.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where can our listeners connect with you? What socials are they on, or can you send us a list of stuff for the show notes? That'd be really nice. But
of course, yeah, I'll send you it all over.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to push pause. I like to say pause because hopefully you'll come back and come and have another chat and give us an update.
I'd love to, mate. Thank you very much for your time, and yeah, I'll give you all the links. I've just finished that process, just about, of splitting all the guitar stuff and the voice stuff up. So there's now 2 of everything. So it's essentially Tommy Loose guitars, Tommy Loose voices for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all of that stuff. And it's been a handful of years ago. I probably wouldn't have thought of going TikTok live as something that I would really do. Not that I was overly dismissive of it, but I've really enjoyed that process, because a lot of the time you go on there and get the harp guitar out and people are immediately intrigued, so they start sharing it around, and then I'll do a bit of electric and then a bit of vocal stuff, and it's a you can either use the technology and get what you can from it for you, or you can just think, well, that's not for me,
Yeah.
and maybe it isn't for you. But if you don't actually give it a try, um, there's a I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was Johnny Knoxville from Jackass, and Poopies from the new Jackass as well. And it's meant to be the Poopies podcast, but he's not very organised, and Johnny Knoxville kind of just eggs him along through it. And he gets to the end of it and says, "You learn by doing. So well done for doing the first one.
Yeah.
You know, they'll get better from here." And you do learn by doing, don't you? And it's like that picture that goes around on Facebook, isn't it? The picture of the kind of badly drawn circle and then a perfect circle, and it's along the lines of just get started, you can make it good later.
Yeah, exactly that.
And that's that's hopefully what it's doing. And I'm looking back at some of the voice stuff I did a few months ago now and thinking, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm doing more of this now. And but yeah, so it's an interesting process. And when it's all in video form as well, the internet never forgets, does it? So
No.
people like to let you know. And I've had a few people with, I wouldn't say overly mean comments, but you do a few silly voices. And I've had the odd, that's a bit embarrassing for someone of your age. And you think, well, I guess the cut-off for having fun must be 37 then, so I'll stop that.
Yeah, and if you say I should stop, then yeah. That's definitely a conversation for another day because
oh yeah,
yeah. It's
if you don't like it, I better do more and tag you in it.
Yeah, here's an update for you.
Yeah, I know you're dying to know, but yeah.
Tommy, thanks a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been fascinating.
Oh, thank you, mate. I really appreciate you helping us work schedules in together. I know we've both got lots going on, but I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's been lovely, and I've almost forgotten that I feel full of cold. And but that's it's not quite Namthrax territory. I don't know what the Guitar Summit would be, but yeah, not as poorly as that, but give it 2 or 3 days and it'll either be gone or it'll be worse. Either way, I'm going to complain about it a lot. So, because why not?
Yeah, no, why not? Tommy, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
all right,
mate.
Take care. Cheers.